Hello, good afternoon. It's really, really lovely to be here and also to follow on from this, Diego. So thank you so much and for seeing all these warm faces on the screen. We are here today to deliver a short and sharp practice and a discussion around mindfulness and performance. So welcome everybody. My name is Hannah and I am the service lead for Nudge Minds. I am also have spent a lot of my time in my career working internationally with professional athletes and in clinical environments, supporting all things mind and body and mindfulness, and with a specific interest in trauma and pain and how to intervene. So Diego, over to you. I know we've just had some lovely time with you, but here we go.
Am I on? Yes, I'm on. Yeah, let me see if I can switch back to this. So where are we? Yes, so what we're going to explore, thanks very much. What's the next one, Hannah, just out of interest? Oh, God, honestly, these guys, we need to go through, yeah, that one, Hannah. So these guys were tech, perhaps they can just maybe, instead of thinking about unique selling points, should be thinking about unique things that they can do to make it easy for everybody to navigate from one to the other. But anyway, so I'm talking about the presentation here. So if you go back to the one above, Hannah, just before. Yep, depth. So an enormous part of what we do at Nudge Minds and Nudge Education, as you probably just heard, is to do with reflection, it's to do with rest, it's to do with movement. But also, as you probably heard, well, as you heard, if you were here in the last session just before, we work with kids who are chronically disengaged. What that technically means is that they're experiencing an enormous amount of psychological, in some cases, physical pain. And that creates lots of stress. But it creates stress for them, and you probably put some stress on us. So, and the stress is a good thing. But we'll explore that in a minute. But in our engagement with our young people, we tend to practice some of these things that we'll be practicing with you. So this is not just a nice idea from somewhere, or an attempt for me and Hannah to become mindfulness gurus. Far from that. It's a bit like becoming a CEO. I'd love to avoid becoming a mindfulness guru. There's lots of them out there and they're really good. They can do a better job than I can. But this comes from the vision of and the approach that Nudge Minds and Nudge Education develops, which really technically says, as I said before, is can we sit amongst the fire and not be burned with it, if that makes sense? That's the critical question. And we think we can through some of these things. Hannah.
Thanks, Diego. So practically today, we're going to have an investigation into how stress affects our performance, an introduction to the physiological and psychological effects and how we can intervene. As Diego says, we are really looking now to support us as practitioners, as tutors and educators. And this is really relevant at the moment because we've been through very stressful couple of years. We have heightened emotional reactivity from our young people as we've experienced. It's been actually really difficult. As well as that, the periods of isolation, also increased time on the screen. Here we are, but we're doing a great job. And the potential disassociation from our bodies and our physical experience, which really, as we know, impacts our performance and our stress. So we're going to have a short time to discuss this and move on into the last 10 minutes of a nice, calming mindfulness and breathing technique. So take care today, guys. This is the main mission, all about you. Take from this what is meaningful for you. It feels free to throw the rest, and also make sure you're comfortable. Ideally, if there's a quiet space, we'd love to see your faces where possible on screen. Thank you. So Diego, back to you. And I want to know a little bit about stress. stress and what this really means, what this means to you.
Yeah, I mean, when we were prepping for this, which was really funny, by the way, everybody, because we had to imagine delivering this. Somebody stopped the presentation. Can the presentation go back up? Yeah, so one of the key indicators, sort of measures of being diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and I remember that because I was diagnosed with that about 5 years ago after some very unexpected traumatic events, which included being hit by a car whilst I was cycling my bike. So for those of you who hadn't heard that story, I'm not going to tell you again. For those of you who have already heard that story, I'm not going to tell you again. For those who haven't, I'm not going to tell you now, but it was pretty traumatic. But one of the measures is your ability to perform, they ask you, daily tasks, right? So there is an element in which performing is just part of what we do. Perform tasks. You know, when we get into the role of a tutor, we perform to our students. When we are on the parents' evening sort of event, we perform as teachers. Ludo, I'm sure you're not limited to that, but you do a great job performing as a festival host. And I'm pretty sure, because we touched base a few times over the past month or so, almost daily, that it brings a particular amount of stress. And perhaps in my view, the reason why performing daily tasks is good is because we want to live a good life, right? And if there's enough stress there that is hindering you from, preventing you from engaging with those daily tasks, that's when stress perhaps becomes to be a little bit toxic. It's when you're having your panic attack before you see your tutor that perhaps there's too much stress there and not enough rest. So I think performance is something that goes on all the time, and stress is something that can probably help us get there. I do a whole lot of bouldering these days, and I'm nowhere near claiming to be a pro. In fact, I have a whole lot of other friends who are incredibly professional at bouldering, which means I have to learn pretty quick. But nonetheless, it is stress. It is the adrenaline, one of the stress hormones, that enables me to crimp into a tiny little hole in a wall that is 8 meters up the wall, as I say, with no harness. My feet about to slip, needing to make an enormously difficult move from a body position point of view to get to the top for no other reason, because it's a fun thing to do. But it's that particular stress that helps it as well. So I'm going to stop there, but just to highlight that I think stress and performance are both really good things, and it's things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis and experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So what about you, Hannah? What about the physiology of all of this sort of stuff?
Well, really love to hear you talk about performance as well, Diego. And it always makes me smile when talking about performance, because we really want to get something done or do something really well. But I also really think about the heart and the joy in the moment of performance. And one of the things I remember is when I was working a couple of years ago with a professional athlete in Italy. It was in the Dolomites. It was quite a nice place to be. And this was a high pressure race. This was a World Series event, and there was a lot of pressure on these athletes. And I was there in a race pit, and one of the riders came back, and I looked at this rider, and it was this absolute illumination of joy, of happiness. I've never seen a smile so big. It was so lovely. And this rider sat down, and I said, "Okay, how did it go?" And he said, "Hannah, this was just the most beautiful experience. It was so much fun. It was so much fun." And there was then this little drop, this little light bulb moment when he said, "Actually, I might have forgotten to pedal a little bit on some of the harder sections. I'm not sure about my time." And somebody said, "Okay, maybe we don't tell the manager that part." It was quite fun, but it was like another measure of performance, of just being really in the moment, being really there and joyful in any experience. So it was a lovely example. And yeah, let's come to the stress of the physiology of stress, Diego. As you said, it's great to think about, because actually I think sometimes it takes a lot of pressure off us anyway, and we realize it's really difficult to manage stress. And sometimes people say, that young person just needs to calm down, or that athlete needs to calm down, or you just need to calm down, Hannah. It's not that easy. There's a lot going on physiologically, and this is what we'll talk about now. And mostly we're going to just go into a couple of areas because it is a complex response, the stress response. And one of the things that's happening is that I'm going to use this hand model of the brain, as the psychiatrist called Dan Siegel. We'll put this in the resources and you can have a little look. It's a nice visual and what happens. So here we've got, ideally, my hand here is the brain, very, very simple. And the spinal cord. And we've got this area here, which represents the brain stem, and this area here, which represents the limbic system. This part functioning as the arousal part of our brain, the emotional reactivity. And then the top part here is our cortex, and importantly, our prefrontal cortex, the soothing part of the brain that comes in and gives us space to rationalize and reason when there's an emotional button that's being pushed or we're just super stressed. What happens when the emotional reactivity, we get hijacked? What we can actually do is we flip our lids. So this part of the brain, which is responsible for emotional reactivity, we don't have the soothing response from the prefrontal cortex as we normally would. So here, usually when we are heightened in our emotions, we're maybe harmful to ourselves or other people with what we might say or what we do. The good news about this is we can bring this soothing response into this reactivity and we can train it. And there is vast amounts of research out there that shows mindfulness and mindfulness meditation practices can strengthen this prefrontal cortex and the ability to soothe. That's one area, and that's great. And another area is that actually we can become flooded. We can become flooded with stress hormones, and this process that starts in our HPA axis and involves the immune system, nervous system, endocrine system, and the end result of that pathway is that we produce cortisol. And we prepare, and our bodies are prepared to fight, flight, and freeze. So this is a very physical response, and this is great in acute situations. Diego mentioned there about the climbing, and he really achieved something heart and body in that climbing example. But when it becomes chronic, when we're fatigued, exhausted, overwhelmed, or we're dealing a lot, we're empathizing, resonating with lovely young people that have very traumatic stories or difficult stories, it can be so that we become flooded. And flooded with cortisol can lead us into blockers in our performance, such as insomnia, a heightened reactivity, emotional reactivity, muscle weakness, health conditions, suppressed immune system. So but the good news again, guys, is we can intervene with this. We can intervene on our nervous system, which if we're up here and we're in this sympathetic state, we can come down into the parasympathetic state in a simple diaphragmatic breathing technique, which we will explore today. So mindfulness and breathing techniques, super, super powerful. There's a lot that's scary there, but there's a lot that is it's normal and part of our human experience. So we can intervene. Diego, I wonder what your experience is with mindfulness and breath work. I know this is something that you love to do.
Yeah, so for all intents and purposes, by the way, this comes from a great place of humility, but it takes a lot to run an organization the size of Nudge Education. And I've had to engage with different purposeful practices of, and we're not just people at work, we have a whole life with all kinds of colorful, interesting things going on as well behind the scenes that most of us don't see. But nonetheless, I've engaged with two main particular one mindful activity and a particular type of breath work. And I mean, for whatever it's worth, we've now got this enormous organization, and there is one thing in there which we're not mentioning here very much, but it is the soothing effect of people that we love next to us and cheering us on. That's really, really, really powerful as well. It can help us enhance that stress. But I've engaged with a thing called cold showers mostly. I find that incredibly mindful. You try and worry about your day when you've got that piercing, like straight from the tap, And at the moment, I think the water's about 4 degrees, and you're fresh from bed and you turn that cold shower on. There's not much that can, or if you do some of your cold swimming, I find that more kind of accessible to me in my type of brain than sitting and meditating mindfully, unless that's a guided group work type of meditation. In terms of breath work, I engage with this particular diaphragmatic sets of breaths that we do that tends to sort of breathe really deep into your belly. I'm sure Hannah will explain that to you. By the way, I sometimes take 2 or 3 cold showers a day, depending on how stressful I think my week or my day is going to be. And it really down regulates some of those irrational responses that comes from that little limbic system part of our brain. So for me, I can live without it these days. I go to whether I'm trying to just relax into falling asleep, or actually the commitment is so much that even when I don't want to take that cold shower, like last night and this morning, I was like, oh, I can't believe this. Why is the thought even in my head? I do it, and the benefits that I experience from that is just completely amazing. You know, I do. I mean, immediately I can sense that I'm present. I know it's cold, and you know, I engage with my day from a really calm place, even if it's stormy in the seas.
I love the effects on your day, Diego. And it's not uncommon for me to receive a text message from Diego to show the length of time that he's managed to hold his breath in this kind of breath retention work that he does. I think last one was +3 minutes, Diego, is that right? And this is as part of something as well, which we will put in the resources, as the Wim Hof breathing technique, and it involves the diaphragmatic breathing practice and the breath retention as well. And it is, yeah, I just love the way you describe it and the effects on your day, as well as the cold water exposure, which is another thing you can find in the Wim Hof method, but really, really great. And one thing as well to reflect on, when you talked earlier about this, how you describe mindfulness as sitting in the fire and not being burnt, is that right, Diego?
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
Something along those lines. So, and it's really, really nice, because what we are doing with mindfulness practices, we are just trying to create space to see an awareness, to see what is around us, to see what our own inner experience, our own emotional responses are, and that those of other people, so that we're not bound by that story, whether it's ours or other people, and we have space to operate from a place that's not gripping or shutting us down, so grasping or aversion we're talking about here. We're operating from a place of clarity. It's not always easy, but intentional practice really helps to support this. So I think when we talk about mindfulness and the moments of mindfulness, they are the moments where we're coming back, and where there's no expectation for anybody to be completely clear, completely rational and steady all the time, because it's just not realistic. The point is really is when we notice we're offline, or we're distracted or heightened, and then we're coming back. So this is a mindfulness practice, this mindfulness moment, which we'll integrate into our practice that we'll be with soon. And I also like to think about mindfulness practice, or coming back to the inner experience, is coming home, is really coming home to our bodies. And Thich Nhat Hanh describes being alive in the body, and we can't be really present unless we're alive in the body. And it's not easy to do, because we have our own stories, traumatic experience, fun in life, and whatever's going on. So we have also potentially an amplified state of being distracted or being offline. So really, we throw in so much compassion to this, and we have to. It's really the only way. Is that compassion is the medicine, awareness and compassion. And I love the work also, and I know, Diego, you love this too, of Bessel van der Kolk. And he talks about mindfulness and paying attention. And he says neuroscience research shows us the only way we can change how we feel is by becoming aware of our inner experience And by learning to befriend what is going on inside of us, this is our practice today. So I'd love to just begin to create a little bit of space with that. And Diego, I wonder how you're feeling, if there's anything you want to add in there.
No, I mean, one of the main outcomes we wanted from this session, everyone, is for you to, if you haven't yet, experience there is a way of kind of working with stress in that sense. Whether it's the stress of not having enough work or the stress of having too much work, we'll experience it all. So just hopefully you will glimpse it enough that you will go, our friend Ludo had a little bit of just a momentary sort of exposure to experiencing a busy day, and just taking 15 the whole day. We take hundreds of thousands of breaths, I think, something like thousands anyway. I know, taking 15 conscious breaths, understanding that you're breathing, and what it does to the biochemistry of your body as well as to your psychic. It's just quite it's quite impressive. I'm sure you.
It was incredibly powerful, Diego, but I must admit, like a bad student, I haven't done it since then.
I'll wave that finger at you, Ludo.
Sorry, that's
We can also discuss as we go on in the week that, you know, be really normal about this. Is not easy. It is a intentional practice. We can do it, but yeah, the fact, you know, Ludo saying that I haven't done it yet, that's okay. That's just being human. So we can bring it in whenever we can, I think. And actually, I love this. Diego often goes to this number 15 of deep diaphragmatic breaths, and I think it'd be a really nice place for us to start to practice this together today. But before we do, guys, we've been sat for a little while. I'm going to encourage, if it's safe and if it's comfortable, just to have a little move around, maybe with the shoulders. You can shake them a little bit if you want. Keep the cameras on or off, it's up to you. I mean, I love to see the whites of people's eyes, but feel free to be here or to have your camera off, and just maybe give the hands a little bit of a shake. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Ah, beautiful. And then from here, let's just take 3 deep breaths, and whatever you've got in your body now, 3 deep breaths wherever you are. We are going to come into a practice in a moment, so just checking that you're comfortable, you've got somewhere to be for the next 10 minutes. That is comfy for you. Okay, perfect. So we're going to start with this diaphragmatic breathing practice. Belly breathing is the non-professional term. We'll use that a bit more, I think. So if you can find your hands, you can place them on your low abdomen if you're comfortable with that. So we're just going to place them right below the belly button, somewhere here. And we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose, ideally. And as you do, see if you can let that belly or the abdomen expand. And as you exhale, see if you can just let it fall. So as we inhale, we're going to expand the abdomen. And as we exhale, we're letting that fall back into wherever it started from. Sounds strange sometimes. If it's the first time you've been doing this, it's a bit weird. That's okay, stay with it. So inhale and expand the belly, the abdomen. And exhale and let go. Beautiful. I can see on those who have the cameras on the movement in the belly and the abdomen. It's lovely. So we're going to expand the abdomen. And then maybe we can think about opening the chest as we inhale, and then exhale and really just letting that go. Yeah, really nice. So inhale and expand through the abdomen, the chest, and exhale, letting go. We can think about the inhale through the nose and the exhale through the mouth, if that's comfortable. So we inhale and expand and notice that movement, and exhale and we let go. Some of you might even want to think of this breath expanding from the abdomen, the chest to the top of the head. It's an idea. You can imagine that. And exhale and letting go. We're going to stay here in your own time, in your own space, just for a few more deep breaths. And we're going to move into a very short meditation. Maybe you need to move around, maybe you need to stay where you are. But here we are now, guys, and I'm going to encourage you, if it feels right, to gently close the eyes. If it doesn't, you can keep them open. And as you do, bring your attention to this area around the eyes and inviting the area around the eyes to soften and relax. Noticing as we sit now the rhythm of our own breathing, the pace and the movement in our bodies as we breathe. It's okay if this is fast or slow, whatever pace we have, just notice what's here in this moment. And as we steady our attention to our own breathing rhythm, allowing the inhale to be full, maybe noticing gentle movement on your body as you inhale and as you exhale. I wonder where it is that you can most easily detect this breath. Maybe it's the movement and the sensation of your body, abdomen and chest as you inhale and exhale. Maybe the sound of your inhale and exhale. It could be the coolness of the inhale as it enters the nostrils and the warmth as it leaves. Let's take a moment to stay with this place that most easily detects the breath. So we're letting this awareness of the breath be our home base and our anchor. The place to come back to. And with a gentle, interested attention, how does this sensation, this sound, or this movement feel? In this moment, can we stay with this breath? Noticing distractions and any moments your mind has wandered away from this home base, this anchor. Notice and know it's okay to be distracted. Bring this gentle compassion to noticing these distractions and gently coming home. Because each time you notice your mind has wandered, is a moment of mindfulness. And we gently bring in our attention back to the inflow and the outflow of the breath, offering a relaxed and wakeful presence. In this practice, we're learning to be centered, steady, calm with the sensations of our lived experience. Resting now in a natural breathing rhythm with this breath, moment to moment. Maybe taking now another 3 or 5 deep breaths in your own time. As we gently rise from the deep nurturing of body and mind. Maybe as you come to the to the end of your 3 or 5 deep breaths, we can bring attention to the palms of our hands. We can gently open our eyes and move our head and neck. Maybe if you want, you can place the palms of the hands on the forehead, on the back of the head, or anywhere that feels comfortable. Giving the hands a little squeeze and the neck and the head a little shake, and just having a look in the room, what's around, and maybe coming back to the screen here. Take your time. We might feel a bit sleepy, we might feel calm, we might feel like, I didn't know what that was about. All of that is okay. And it's so lovely to share that time with you guys. Well done. We did sneak in a 10-minute breathing practice and mindful meditation practice. If that was your first time practicing meditation or mindfulness, I really want to high five you. And I do if it doesn't as well. So thank you for being here. Diego, how are you feeling?
That was good. I find it interesting that my mind is wondering what to do next.
Yeah.
What am I? It's 10 minutes of complete goodness. But what is it that I have to do next? You have to kind of bring it back in, you know, and
But that's nice that you talk about the experience of bringing it back in, and because again, that's the moment that we are experiencing mindfulness. And as we go on, I guess, in what to do next and how to bring this in, I think we all respond in different ways. I know that some of us really love to move around. They'll go for a walk and be aware of our own deep breath. Some of us can sit with a guided meditation. Some of us can sit in silence. Some of us can, no, I'm not doing any of that, Hannah. I might try some climbing or some yoga instead and bring the awareness back in. But I think a simple daily practice, even if it is 10 to 15 deep breaths, diaphragmatic breaths in the morning and the evening, so our bodies become a little bit more attuned to this, and it becomes a habit, is where I would say is a really lovely starting point. And we can explore Wim Hof breathing techniques. I know some athletes I work with who really would struggle at the start to do mindfulness meditation like that, but they would work with a breathing technique practice like this. So I think that's where we go from here, Diego.
great.